Today on the Surviving the Human Experience podcast, we are going to dive into the topic of fear and the unknown with myself, Kristin Aurelia. So you got your guest and your host all in one. For those who are tuning in for the first time, I want to provide a brief overview of who I am. I'm an integrative holistic practitioner, Trinity School of Natural Health certified health coach, and currently in the Certified Holistic Health Practitioner program. I'm a certified National Academy of Sports Medicine nutrition coach and wellness coach and certified biofield tuner. I am also the creator of the She 360 wellness model that serves as a framework for health and wellness coaching offered through SheWise Wellness. My approach blends science and energy to balance the whole human. Also, I've authored and published several books in the mind, body, and spirit genre to include Recreation, Surviving the Human Experience, Caring for Your Human, You Only Get One Body, Caring for Your Human, You Only Get One Body Tools and Techniques workbook, You Only Get One Body Journaling to Healthy Habits, which is a journal, super awesome, and Your Voice is Not for Sale. Additionally, I'm a motivational speaker and I offer a variety of workshops that are focused on health and wellness topics that you can also find at shewisewellness.com. And my podcast, Surviving the Human Experience, which you're listening to right now, can be found on Dream Vision 7, which is a Boston-based global radio station, international, syndicated radio station that can be live streamed on Tuesdays at 11 a.m. and 11 p.m. So, without further ado, you've got your guest and your host here. I am ready to rock and roll with today's topic of fear and the unknown. So let's jump in. Let's get into it. With all the events that are occurring in the world, life feels for many very overwhelming with recent news events and the daunting heaviness of just all of life that's going on around us. I mean, you turn on the news and there aren't too many positive, bright light stories being shared right now. It's not unusual to feel chaos and confusion during this time and also to experience fear. And I think that's very important because oftentimes I feel like we sometimes can feel like something's wrong if we feel fear, or we're supposed to be ashamed of that, or, it's not justifiable. And so I think it's really important to just acknowledge and embrace that we're in times of uncertainty in many aspects, and it is perfectly normal and okay to have a fear response to that. And often when we're in spaces of the unknown territory, we can feel a bit disheveled, just like something's not quite right and we can't figure out how to navigate the space that we're in. And so I think it's, again, really important to have that conversation and address that, acknowledge, don't pretend, but acknowledge what's actually happening. It's super duper important to honor yourself and honor your feelings. So with all of that being said, there can sometimes be a feeling of loss of control, or just not understanding what's going on, which can often induce fear. That's not an unusual human response. We're humans. But when fear extends too far and creates an imbalance in our daily lives, it might be impacting your daily activities, your ability to function. It may be time to consider what's going on and re-examine that. Because fear that's left unchecked can wreak havoc on your nervous system, your ability to function, and to create, static in our biofield. So that's really important. And in some instances, it may be necessary to seek professional support from a licensed medical professional. I like to say that and make sure we're reinforcing that because, again, here on this channel, we're sharing tips and tools and talking about the human experience. However, each individual has their own journey. And oftentimes there are instances that call for, professional help from a licensed medical professional. So please, if you feel that that is needed on your end, absolutely get that advice and guidance. If you're unsure, it doesn't hurt to check. Better to be safe than sorry. Okay, now that we got that out of the way. In today's episode, I want to cover some tips and some strategies to address fear and the unknown as we continue to navigate uncertain times. I'm going to cover a lot of tips and tools in this episode, so please feel free to play around and explore to see what works for you. I am 100% all for doing a little bit of self-discovery in here, realizing that we're not all the same, that something that works for me may not work for somebody else, and vice versa. There are so many options and opportunities available that I don't want you to feel that there has to be a specific formula or recipe, because again, you might come up with something we don't even talk about today. But the important thing is figuring out what works for you so that you can navigate these different spaces. So allow yourself to be open to self-discovery along the way as you are the CEO of your health and journey. And only you can identify what tips and strategies work best for you. And I always like to say that you need to claim your power. You need to recognize that you are the one that is with you 24/7, and you know what's best for you. So although there are tips and strategies I'm going to share, it doesn't mean they're necessarily right for everybody. So again, please, please, please put on those boss pants and get ready to figure out what works for you. All right. So I want to start with a basis of what we're discussing. So let's just define fear for the purpose of this conversation. I pulled the Oxford Dictionary definition. I'm going to read it to you. Fear is an unpleasant emotion caused by the belief that someone or something is dangerous, likely to cause pain, or a threat. Again, according to Oxford Dictionary, fear is an unpleasant emotion caused by the belief that someone or something is dangerous, likely to cause pain or a threat. So now we've got fear defined, but let's define the unknown. According to the Oxford Dictionary, the unknown is not known or familiar. Well, that was real fancy. So something we're not sure of, something we're not used to experiencing, to sum that up. So how can these two create chaos and feelings of what I would consider to be misalignment or instability? Let's dissect that a little bit. When a sense or a cause of a threat, pain, or danger is present, which is our definition of fear, it will activate the flight or fight response in the nervous system. That's just a normal response. We don't even have to do anything. It just happens. It kicks into gear without a thought happening. It just happens. Naturally, the body is going to feel that it has to be on guard and alert because now it thinks there's a perceived threat. So now it has to be ready to react. This is going to cause physiological responses, right? So now there's this wired high alert, like, oh my gosh, what's going on? There's an adrenaline rush that could be happening in the body. There's cortisol levels that are increasing. Blood pressure might be going up, and your body is preparing for that fight or flight mode. So all of these things are happening again without you really doing anything. It's just all of the systems are turning on to be ready to protect, right? Because that's what the body was designed to do. So add the feeling of fear and not knowing what's going to happen or what is happening. And you really do have a recipe that's going to create heightened stress. Again, I mentioned misalignment because misalignment is really huge, and instability. So that sea of emotions that comes up during this time of uncertainty is the perfect storm for chaos and confusion to ensue. And when chaos and confusion ensues, it's like the whole motherboard of the body goes haywire, right? Your whole system is just, it's completely discombobulated. All right, so we know that is going to be kind of our human experience response. So how can we combat that feeling of fear that's overpowering our being? I like to bring up, and this concept has worked, tried and true method over time, right? We see it on t-shirts, we see it on bumper stickers, on billboards. I like to bring up the concept of faith over fear. One way to approach all that's occurring when we're not sure how to tackle times like this is to dig deep and literally reach into our faith. Because sometimes there are some instances and some situations that are beyond our control, beyond our comprehension, beyond our ability to really rationalize what's occurring. And so we may only have our faith to rely on, which is not a bad thing. So when we choose to place our energy into our faith, literally what we're doing is we're redirecting its thoughts and emotions into a more productive space. So I share that with you because I do believe that's so critical during these times where we're literally just sitting there like, oh my goodness, how am I getting through this? Or how is this going to occur? What is happening right now? It is so critical to find something that allows you to center and ground. And if faith is that for you, then that's exactly where I want you to focus. And this could be, through prayer, through meditation, whatever is what works for you. That's exactly what I want you to pull into. That's exactly what I want you to tap into. But I do believe that faith over fear is a great way to start. Now we got that out of the way. We're going to talk about some other strategies here. So let's talk about mindset. Mindset is a really huge thing as well. I think oftentimes it's easy to not really recognize how much mindset is playing into what's happening. So mindset during these moments in life can be very, very critical because the frame of mind in which we're approaching things with really does impact how things are perceived and how things are actually unfolding around us, right? Because you could be in the middle of the craziest situation, but if you have found a way to flip how that situation is happening, you can take lemons and make lemonade. That's just how it works, folks. All right. So if we allow ourselves to get consumed with our thoughts, we can easily get swallowed up by what feels like the enormity of a situation. You have control over your thoughts. Even if it feels like your mind is running wild, in most instances, you can consciously choose not to feed into the thoughts that might be taking you down the rabbit hole. Because let's be honest, we can work ourselves up. We're human. We can do that. We can talk ourselves onto the ledge and we can talk ourselves off of the ledge in most instances. Again, if you are in a space where you're struggling with mindset, or there are some concerns that put your safety at risk, then please make sure you're working with a licensed healthcare professional so that those things can be addressed and you can get the support that you need. Some strategies that I found to be helpful for myself and clients is to incorporate pattern interruption. So, for example, if you're finding yourself going into spaces that do not serve you, you can simply acknowledge those thoughts that are happening. That's perfectly acceptable. We don't want to ignore what's happening. What we want to do is acknowledge it, let it pass, and redirect ourselves to another thought that completely changes gears from what you were doing. Being intentional about what you're feeding your mind, being cognizant of content and information you're consuming when you find yourself in a high alert space can be quite helpful. So perhaps consider revisiting what you're reading, watching on TV, or what you're viewing on social media. This is really important because we talk about, what we're feeding ourselves, right? And a lot of times we look at physical food, but we're missing out that the content and the information we're consuming is equally as important because it's feeding our mind. So if we're feeding our mind these distressing images, distressing news stories, toxic conversation, just not really high quality information, we're filtering that through our bodies and through our mind. And it is going to impact, the way that you're viewing whatever situation you're experiencing at the time. So if you can find ways to um, analyze what you're looking at, figure out what's happening in your body when you're looking at that content. Is there a physiological response? Do you feel like really distraught or deflated after you've gone through and listened to information? Perhaps you're feeling drained. You're just energetically exhausted. And if that's happening, then you need to change the content that you're consuming. Look for something that's uplifting. Look for something that's supportive in a healthy way that moves you forward, doesn't feed into the fear, right? So if you're looking at something that's causing you to really inflate the fear, that's not going to be helpful, right? Because your body and your mind are already concerned. So now we want to de-escalate the situation by looking for ways to look at content that might be much lighter. And not saying we should ignore whatever this topic is, but there are ways to help keep our body, mind, and spirit in a space of balance. And we want to find that when we feel like things around us are completely out of control. So another tool I'd like to share is to, especially when it comes to mindset, is surround yourself with others who are upbeat and supportive of your growth. Having naysayers surrounding you during times of fear and the unknown can be an obstacle, or sometimes can reinforce your fears and uncertainties. So assessing who has access to you during these times can make a huge difference on how you're able to navigate. So again, putting people around you who are loving and supporting and really want to see you succeed is really super helpful during this time. So keep that in mind, because again, this is a time where you're needing support, and you need it in your mindset, in your environment, to feel safe. I mean, it's just a whole entire formula. So getting that recipe together that's going to help you navigate this space is going to be super duper important. So surround yourself with those who want to see you succeed, who are encouraging, loving, and not going to be having you question yourself or doubt yourself or feed into the fear, right? If we all have the same fear and we're all sitting around talking about a topic, we're really just going to work ourselves up. So trying to de-escalate, again, the situation, super, super helpful. Okay, let's jump into self-care. Self-care is important. Take a drink on this one. Okay, so self-care. Upping your self-care game during these times is crucial. I share that because oftentimes the first thing as we get into spaces where we're stressed out or we're distraught is to actually pull back on our self-care game, um, put our self-care aside, or sometimes we just all out neglect ourselves unintentionally. It's not even like it's an intentional thing. It can often be just that we're so exhausted and consumed with whatever's happening, and we're so worked up and we're in this frenzy that we neglect ourselves without even realizing it. So I always like to say, if you feel like you've only got 30 minutes, and a lot of people have said this too, actually, along the way in this health and wellness space, if you feel like you only have 30 minutes a day to do self-care, then you need to double that, at least double it. If you can do a little more than double, that's great too. But if you're finding that you're having to squeeze it into that level and you just feel like you just can't do it, that means that you're really running yourself ragged and you need to pour a little more into yourself. So if you can, please double it. Because again, during these times of distress, when the body is being affected by what's happening, you need to prioritize that self-care and give yourself a little extra love. There needs to be more ease and grace that's happening in your space, because again, you're physically going through a lot and you need to be ready to counteract that by pouring into yourself. So you need to make sure that cup is full. And if it's not full, get it pretty darn close or let it overflow a little, because again, you need that extra at that time. So I'm just going to talk about a couple of self-care things that you can do. Now, if you've listened to the podcast, you've probably heard these throughout different episodes as I have different guests on, but I just want to reinforce it because again, I think it's so important that we really just we just really foot stomp all of these things. We need to hear this stuff again because again, life is stressful, and so it doesn't hurt to hear it more than once. So I've talked before about grounding exercises. I also write about it in my Caring for Your Human book, but grounding is so important. So when we feel that sense of disconnection because we've been so stressed out or there's a lot of fear going on, then we need to do the extra work to make sure we're grounding. When I say grounding, I mean get outside, put those feet in the grass. If you're by a beach, put those feet in the sand. Find a tree, hug it, be a tree hugger for goodness sakes, because there's so much energy in trees and it allows you to really just connect in with the roots. So I really want you to find ways to just go outside, even if, if you're at work and you don't have a lot of time to do it, just maybe during a lunch break or during a morning or an afternoon break, take a few moments to just go stand outside, put the feet in the grass, or just go outside and imagine yourself. If you can't take the shoes off, go outside and imagine yourself walking through. You can do visuals, as well. That's just as helpful because sometimes you have to improvise, and that's okay too. journaling. I always love journaling, and I always share journaling with all of my clients and our listeners because I do believe it's so important. It also can help you with mindset. So if you have a recurring thought or things just keep popping up for you and you're really frustrated by them, then again, one of the really great things to do, write it down, because when you're writing it down, it gets it out, it gets that energy out, and it pushes that out of your space. So journaling can really help you, and it can also help you track your self-care. So when I wrote the Journaling to Healthy Habits journal, it literally was my journal that I used for quite some time, where I would just, it was served as a reminder for me to say, okay, did you hydrate today? Did you do some personal growth and development today? Were there certain supplements you took today? Were there things that I wanted to work on? How was the sleep pattern? Things like that, because it's so important to have those reminders when you're going through a space where you're disheveled. Sometimes you just don't even, again, on purpose, realize that you're completely missing something. So if you're able to just really go back and look, you can see your progress. And so on those days where you're feeling like, have I made any progress? You can look back, which is so super key and so important. Also, meditation. So this goes right into being able to get into a space where you're experiencing mindfulness, you're experiencing being present, really just getting into that space to just kind of woosah, so important. So meditation is on my list. Nature, again, being able to connect with nature really just puts you in a really great space where you're able to, for a moment, cast things aside that might be going on. Look at the trees. Enjoy the different seasons. Maybe it's, it's fall right now. So being able to see the leaves changing colors, being able to just look at the beauty and the birds that are flying by, and to see all the different things that are happening. I mean, it's just such a beautiful experience. So if you're a hiker, get out there and hike. If you're a person who just loves to sit in the backyard and watch birds, do that. If you have a stream running through the house, then enjoy that too. I mean, there's so many options to consider. So please connect with nature. You will really enjoy that. For some, connecting with animals is another way. So if you have pets, then being able to sit with your pet and just love on your pet, your cat, your dog, your bird, whatever you have at home. And if you don't have animals, then being able to go and just really enjoy maybe a petting zoo or go to a farm, being able to go horseback riding or go to an equestrian center, maybe go to you could go literally to an aquarium if that's your thing, but being able to connect with animals is another beautiful thing, or just watch them in nature. That's another option too. Prayer, super important, goes back to our faith over fear, right? So for those of you who are very much into your spiritual connections and have found that prayer is very powerful for you, I encourage you to really, really just go into that prayer space and ensure that you're able to find that connection, build that spiritual relationship. That's so very important, because there are plenty of moments in time where there's going to be fear and unknown clashing together and creating this monstrosity. And the way that we're able to navigate and move through this is by being able to really just tap into prayer and ask for that extra guidance and support, because we're not always supposed to know everything. And so prayer is really, really powerful. Okay, rest and relaxation, really key. Oftentimes I think we forget how important it is because we've been in a society that prides itself on productivity being a status symbol for accomplishment. So finding ways to rest and relax doesn't always have to be this big drawn out thing, but maybe instead of, running somewhere for that evening, maybe you choose to sit at home and just rest, watch a funny show, sit on the couch, sit out on the back deck, enjoy the weather, find ways to allow yourself to just breathe for a second, not have to go, 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 but breathe. Really, really important. Unplug from technology. I share the unplugging from technology because technology has become such a huge part of our lives. And it is very important, don't get me wrong. It really is. But oftentimes I find that technology, it continues to feed the mindset. So again, looking at what content we're digesting, but then also really recognizing that it's stimulating the brain. And there are addictions to social media. There are addictions to, checking our email and feeling like we have to get it, responded to by a certain time. And so sometimes we just need to physically unplug. We need to move the phone or the computer or whatever, the Wi-Fi router, move it away from us because those things are impacting our biofield as well. And so we need to allow the body that space that feeds into the rest and relaxation. If your body is constantly getting stimuli coming in towards it, it can never really fully relax. And so it can amp up fear and the emotion associated with it because we're scrambling our biofield. So that's a little bit about self-care. Those are some of my top tips I wanted to share. Also, I wanted to talk about sleep. So that's another conversation. When we find ourselves in spaces where we're going to get run down, we're stressed out because we're fearful and all this other stuff is going on, it is super easy to find ourselves in a space where maybe we're losing some sleep because we're so stressed out and we're so worried. If that is happening, again, I want to share that we need to make sure we put our sleep as an important priority, just as well as self-care. So making sure you're getting the needed hours a night, but that it's quality sleep. Shut off the electronics an hour before bed, start turning down the lights, get your mind and body in a space where it can just kind of relax and zen out so that you're able to rest and get quality sleep. If you're not getting the quality sleep, it will definitely impact you. It'll impact your productivity, your immune system goes down, and then you're going to find yourself in a space where you're struggling to really be able to cope with what's happening around you. So again, please put some emphasis on that sleep, getting the quality sleep, whether it's, again, shutting off the electronics an hour before, dimming the lights, making sure the kids are in bed so that you have an opportunity to unwind, not just falling into the bed. And trust me, I was guilty of it for most of my life. Actually, I just would hit the bed and drop. So I am not saying I'm perfect in this space, but I am saying there is a huge benefit to making sure that you're arming your body with the best possible environment and situations to combat whatever is coming at you. And so sleep is a really, really important one. Okay, something I want to share with you as well, Bach Flower Remedies. Really amazing. And I will do an episode on them separately. I have had a doctor on to talk about flower essences and the importance of them, and we did touch on Bach Flower Remedies in there, so you can certainly check out the episodes in the archives. But something to consider during times when you need additional emotional support. They're helpful to get you through different periods of life. And so I want to share a little bit about the different flower essences from the Bach Remedies, from Dr. Bach that created them. And again, you could check out my page. You can check out our other episodes. I'm not going to go into the history lesson on Bach Flower Remedies, but I wanted to share a couple of the top ones that can help with fear. You can find these online. You can get them yourselves. They're really awesome. So they break down which emotional support you might need at the time. You can read the different descriptions on each of them to figure out which one's right for you. But again, I just wanted to share a few that are associated with fear. So Mimulus is known specifically for fear and anxiety. It's recommended for like everyday type of fears, maybe public speaking, maybe you're scared of spiders, getting ill, but it also helps with shyness and if you're timid. So Memulus is a really awesome one. And again, you get them in dropper bottles, they're tinctures, so they're really helpful. And again, just navigating spaces where you need a little emotional support. Then there's Aspen. So Aspen is for vague unknown fears. So that kind of tackles both if we're dealing with fear and it's in unknown spaces. Used when you're feeling like feelings of dread, or maybe there's some anxiousness and you can't really identify the specific cause. So this could again be just something that comes on because of heightened chaos in the world or uncertainty in life. But that's a really good one too. Rock rose, that's for like intense fear, terror, and panic. So this is going to be more of like your crisis situations. And again, they're found in tincture form. Cherry plum, feelings of losing control. And that could be like if you're worried about losing your temper, acting irrationally, or maybe being overwhelmed by powerful emotions. And then there's red chestnut. So this is like excessive fear. So this one's going to be if you're overly concerned or worried about others. You're constantly worried that something negative is going to happen. So those are just a couple of the top. Those are my top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that I wanted to share with you that are helpful for situations where fear might be involved. There are 38 total Bach Flower Remedies, so they're all broken out into different areas and different emotional needs. And so I'm just sharing a couple of them here. I mean, the list is extensive, so to go through all of them, I'd need a whole episode, but I just wanted to highlight a few of them. So when it comes to the unknown space, and you can mix these, so you could be taking, Mimulus, and then maybe there's something in the unknown category that you wanted to incorporate. So I've, taken 3 or 4. I wouldn't go more than 5 or 6 at a time, because you want to give your body a chance to also experience these and see how you're feeling. So for unknown, one of the top ones is aspen, and that's for vague, undefined fears. Again, sense of dread, not knowing the cause. We talked about that in the fear category as well. So there you go. That's a 2 for 1. Mimulus, which we also covered. Again, specific known fears could be like fear of the spiders, flying, going to the dentist, public speaking. Rock rose, which we also covered. And so rock rose is the terror and panic. Those ones are like, serious nightmares, things like that. Red chestnut had not covered. Oh, no, I actually did cover that in fear as well. So this is great. The majority of these work in both cases for over concern or worry about welfare of others. So just that worry wart syndrome where you're always worried about what's happening to other people. Now, another thing that's really cool about the Bach Flower Remedies is that they came up with a rescue remedy. And that one has a combination of, I believe it's, if trying to remember off the top of my head, I think it's 5, might be 6, but I believe it's 5 different flower essences. And that one's more like for the emergency situation. So if there's a lot of panic or fear and you're just trying to combat that, then that's a really good one that you can take. I've used it a few times and I thought it was really great. So that's a little bit about Bach Flower Remedies. So that's another extra tool that I'm sharing with you that can help with fear and unknown. Then there's aromatherapy. So there are many options available to support individuals who choose to incorporate aromatherapy. Again, I always say check, with your licensed medical professionals if you think there might be, any reason you might not want to take one, and do your research because again, these are all up to individuals. So there's methods such as inhalation on aromatherapy, topical, and some people use aromatherapies to take their relaxing baths. They're all great ways to incorporate in your routine. I use roller blends all the time so I can roll them on, especially with headaches. If I had headaches, I would use peppermint and I'd put it right on the temple, back of, the neck. Sometimes just kind of inhale under the nose, if I'm experiencing a really bad headache. So you have some different options. I've also used them in my baths and I found them to be incredibly wonderful and soothing. And then I've also used them in the inhalation form. So sometimes, you get a cold, sinuses, you can use one of the individual personal inhalers. I've also done where you can boil some water and just kind of put a towel over your head and just kind of hover over that warm water and just kind of inhale the different aromatherapies. But for the purpose of this conversation, looking at fear and unknown, there's a couple of different oils that help ease some of the frustration and irritation that might happen when the nervous system gets a little wonky when we're experiencing fear and the unknown. And so I wanted to highlight a few for you. Lavender is super popular for relaxation. It can reduce feelings of anxiety and promote restful sleep. So again, when we were talking about sleep, this is another 2-for-1 option here. And then it also has shown in some instances that inhalation of lavender can impact the limbic system, which controls emotions. So sometimes it'll help just kind of zen you out a little bit. So when you're getting really stressed out or ramped up, it can really be helpful. Chamomile, Roman chamomile. This oil is helpful for fear and panic attacks, acute ones. It can be strong, but it has a direct soothing effect on the nervous system. So that's another one to consider. Clary sage, that one can help lower blood pressure and cortisol. So remember in the beginning, we talked about, if we go into that fight or flight, you've got the adrenaline rushing, you've got the cortisol, levels rising, your blood pressure might be going. And so it can help with a little bit of calming the body, adding a little bit of peace, and maybe promoting some more positive thoughts. So helping with that mindset. Yingling, I always say it, I always have a hard time saying that one. With it's a floral scent, and I actually love it. It's in one of my roller blends that I use regularly, but it helps to reduce blood pressure, heart rate, and it can sometimes just kind of zen you out a little bit and chill that stress factor out. So that is one that is super duper helpful. There are some grounding oils that kind of help you center as well, give you that sense of stability and reassurance, which can really help when you're in that unknown space. Vetiver, which is known to be the oil of tranquility. It has a deep, grounding, earthy scent to it. So that one can help you really get your mind into the present moment. So maybe kind of shelf those fears for a little bit and the concerns of the unknown and just kind of put them aside. Sandalwood, which is another one I love. It's in one of my roller blends I use as well. This one has a woody, smoky aroma that just kind of calms the central nervous system. It really gives you that earthy feeling and it promotes inner peace. It's often used a lot in meditations too. So that's a really good one. We've got cedar wood. This one is dry, woody oils, and it's really good for grounding. Again, it creates some mental calmness. It can reduce some feelings of anxiety and just really help you feel more stable and relaxed. And then frankincense. I'm sure those of you who are familiar with aromatherapy, frankincense is a pretty popular one. Again, another earthy scent that promotes tranquility, promotes spiritual grounding. It's helpful for quieting racing thoughts. So that again helps you with that mindset and induces that sense of peace. Again, another great choice. So for oils that maybe you just need a little boost, a little lift because you feel like, oh, this is so heavy. This is so draining, emotionally exhausting. There are 3 that I wanted to share with you. There are more, but I'm going to give you 3 tonight. Bergamot, that's got a citrus scent. I love citrus things, so that one's a really awesome one I love. That one's going to give you the sense of positive feelings, reducing stress. It's uplifting yet calming is what it's kind of known for. Sweet orange, again, I love the citrus scents, so I'm a fan, and this one's in my roller blend too. Actually, all 3 of these are. This one can lift mood and decrease anxiety, also promotes relaxation, which is really important because you're really trying to bring yourself up, but you want to be calm in doing that. Not that uplifted, anxious feeling where you're like shaking inside. Then jasmine, this one is known for also increasing feelings of well-being. So it's really great to kind of play with these different oils and see which ones work for you. And then also, again, recognizing not everybody is able to use every single oil. I've talked to several people who will say, oh, I can't use that. I'm allergic to that, or I break out. So just if you do try something new and you haven't tried it before, just be cautious, just a little bit at a time, right? Test the waters first. Don't go all in and get too crazy. And then also be careful and use the good judgment on cautions and guidance of using these different oils. Sometimes overuse can actually create the adverse effect. So Just be mindful when you're using aromatherapy and make sure you read up on how to use it properly. Okay, so let's talk about energy and body work as another option for supporting you during times of fear and the unknown. I'm going to, of course, share one of my favorites, probably because I'm, all into tuning and sound frequency and the power of biofield tuning. But biofield tuning as an option. So, biofield tuning, for those who may not have listened to my previous episode on it or have not checked out shewisewellness.com. Biofield tuning is a form of sound therapy that uses vibrational frequency while working with the body's electrical system to support the body in achieving balance, harmony, and relaxation. This method works with both the subconscious, and the conscious mind. Tuning forks are used. They're incorporated to work with the client's energy field to optimize wellness by creating an environment for the body to naturally experience a state of balance, coherence, and relaxation. I said that more than once because I want you to really pay attention to that balance, coherence, and relaxation. It's really important. A session typically lasts about 60 minutes. During a session, the client, will typically either lay on a massage table and we'll work around the client with the forks, or there are some chair sessions. And of course, depending on the client's mobility, some may need to sit up versus lay down. So that's, just something that happens during a session. And the practitioner is working with the client's energetic field to identify and work with areas requesting attention. So those are really wonderful sessions. I actually not only am a certified biofield tuner and offer those sessions to clients, but I also receive sessions as well. So I am one who likes to walk the walk and talk the talk. So I'm not going to do something with my clients that I'm not practicing myself. So I personally incorporate that into my personal self-care routine. And I have found great, tremendous benefits because there are times when life gets high stress and there's a lot of fear and unknowns. And so what do? I call and schedule a session because I know if I can keep my biofield and my frequency in my biofield in a space of coherence and balance, then I'm better prepared to address whatever's, being thrown at me or showing up in my space. Okay, so next, the breathing exercises. Another really wonderful way to do some energy and body work for yourself. So you can do active breath work sessions. There's a lot of active breath work coaches throughout, the world. So seek out those as an option if that appeals to you, if you feel that resonates. I have done plenty of breath work sessions and enjoyed those. And then also just incorporating breathing techniques. You might be in a space where you just need to get it together really quick and you don't have an active breathwork session coming up soon. So you choose to, incorporate breathing techniques. So you could do, for example, the 4-4-4 breath. The 4-4-4 breath is a really wonderful way where you inhale for 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. You keep them nice, even, and steady. And that is just a fabulous way to just kind of bring that nervous system back into alignment. Another one that's been very helpful, I've seen people use and they really enjoy, is the 4-7-8. And in the 4-7-8, you're inhaling for 4, you're holding for 7, and you're releasing for 8. And they're nice and steady. So again, breathing techniques, active breath work, really wonderful ways to just kind of get into the zone, get yourself in a space of, balance, alignment, relaxation, and harmony. Massage is another really great technique. I have a lot of clients who enjoy going for their massages and they just feel that massage is just really relaxing and it gives them what they need so that they can just kind of really release tension, right? So we hold oftentimes tension in our bodies. We hold it, for me, it's shoulders, neck, back. For some, it's just throughout their body. It might be, clenching your jaw at night. It might be, just grinding your teeth. It could be not being able to settle the body down. And so sometimes going for that massage is just enough to loosen things up and to help feel, more relaxed and feel better. So that, again, that's kind of a choice for each individual. Again, some people love massages, some don't. You need to figure that out. It may be even going and sitting in the sauna, doing some sauna work too. Just allowing your body to have the releases and to release some of those toxins, right? And then I always say movement is another really great thing. So whether or not you love going to the gym or not doesn't matter. I mean, this could be just going outside. This could be taking the stairs instead of the elevator, but getting the body moving. I personally have found that power walks are great for me. I'm not really a fan of jogging, not because there's anything wrong with it. It's just never really been my jam. For some people, jogging is their jam, and I say jog on. And I've just found that being able to get out and get the body physically moving helps release some of the pent up tension and frustration that might be going on that we are experiencing when we're faced with fear and the unknown. All right, so I've covered a lot in this episode today. I feel like we've gone through an entirely lot of things, actually. We've talked about the definition of fear and unknown. We've talked about, I'm going back through my notes here, how that can create chaos and feelings of misalignment in our lives. We talked about mindset. We covered self-care. We covered sleep. We covered Bach Flower Remedies. We covered aromatherapy as an option. We covered energy and body work. I mean, we really covered a lot of stuff here. So I could go on and on. This could probably be multiple episodes. We covered breathing exercises too. And massage. Like, we really covered a lot of stuff. But I know our time is coming to a close. So my message to you today: fear and the unknown are inevitable and are part of the human experience. Although they can catch us off guard, feel debilitating, and in some instances trigger the fight or flight response, we do not need to be held captive by fear or the unknown. We can choose to embrace these times in our lives as an opportunity for self-discovery and growth. There are a myriad of tips and tools that will allow us to navigate our way through these uncertain times, and in totality, we can navigate these spaces with ease and grace. We just need to let go of the need to control what is happening and embrace what is actually happening. Acknowledge, feel, process, and keep moving. Getting stuck in what interferes with your ability to move through. So finding the right tools and strategies work for you will make a world of difference and allow you to remain flexible and adaptable during uncertain times. I know that's a lot, but again, it's important to really just take away that overall, we need to be flexible and adaptable. We need to stop trying to control every single situation. We need to acknowledge what's happening, honor what's happening, but then find tips and tools that we can include in our daily lifestyle that will allow us to move through those spaces, not get stuck, but allow us to keep pushing through. So again, we're going to encounter these things. There's no question about it. I mean, we are human. That is how this works. So we just have to figure out what is it that we need to do to help us maneuver through these different sticky times in life. And there are plenty of tools. So again, I encourage you to engage in that self-discovery, figure out what works for you. And I'd love to hear if you'd want to reach out and share what you found has worked for you. I'd love to hear about it. So please feel free to reach out and share that information. So if you are interested in learning more, scheduling a session, or connecting, you can reach me at any of the following. You can go to shewisewellness.com, where we have all of our information. You can book sessions, shewisepublications.com, where we offer services, and you can see, you can link to any of the podcasts from there. You can also see which books are published. You can reach out by phone at 240-927-3323. You can send an email to shewisewellness@gmail.com or shewisepublications@gmail.com. You can also find us on Facebook at Shewise Publications, and you can also find us on Instagram at Shewise Publications. So plenty of ways to reach out. We do love to hear from our Shewise family, so please do feel free to connect with us. And I would just like to say thank you for tuning in to this session of Surviving the Human Experience podcast. And until next time, be well and stay blessed.